Good morning, afternoon, evening, really late night, really early morning, whichever one suits you. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Identity Human podcast, where we will be the world's most popular unproduced podcast up until a point where we might have to produce, and then we'll change strategies. And also, I was just thinking this the other day, how do we prove that we're the world's most popular unproduced podcast? Think about that. Like, how do we generally prove that? So we're going to have to find a measure what matters number. How do we find what that metric is? How do we see what that is? If you guys think of any ideas, let me know. Yeah. So let's just take a moment to reflect. Because no doubt you listen to this and you either enjoy listening to weekly or you've stumbled across it and you go, what's this all about? And I'm just going to set a quick tone to remind you about like identity human and what that means. And it's like, it's trying to cut through everything. It's trying to go deep. It's trying to simplify things. It's trying to give you foundational understanding in ways that you wouldn't have thought before. It's trying to make us critically think. It's trying to go, oh, even if I don't agree with it, that kind of makes sense and I want to look into it. It's also going like, be your own scientist. Like, don't rely on science to prove everything you want. Use science as a springboard. So, you know, where someone can put together a logical argument, it's almost understand like, how do you feel? Are you looking at both sides of the coin? Are you when someone's telling you that you're never going to be able to achieve this, are you looking at the other side of the coin? Why do they say that? Where does that come from? What are they using to prove it? How can I break that? So again, identity human has got to be about, I am powerful beyond measure. You know, that quote, I have it on my door, so I don't have to look it up to read it. I can just look at my door behind me. And it says, our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. And there's a whole saying that goes with that. And to summarize that saying, it basically is going like, don't be scared to be who you are. Don't be scared to shine the light that you've got into the world. You know, we mentioned Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And he talks about your essence and how you give your essence out to the world. And that one for me, it's exactly this. Like, how do you shine your light so bright that it brings light to other people's darkness and it shows them that it's okay? So it's almost flipping this narrative that like there's darkness in the world and it's taking over, and it's actually no, like we've got this light, we've got what's the word I'm looking for? Brightness. We've got essence that like it only shines if you're brave enough to be who you are meant to be. So it only shines if you really understand who you are at your core, what's your purpose, and you're living towards that. And that's kind of where I want to take you guys that are following this journey, this podcast, this identity human brand, this concept, this movement, this principle, however you want to term it, it doesn't really matter, because it's all for you and it's all for me. Realistically, I learn a lot. I have to do some research for some episodes, and some I don't. Some I just have to plan 5 minutes before, not like I did this one, because I actually think that also is, it goes with the unproduced, the world's most popular unproduced podcast. And I hope that just gives an essence of what we're trying to talk about. So we talk about empowering mindsets, we talk about physical stuff, but actually at the end of the day, I'm probably only going to talk about physical things that align to the mindset, that help out with the mindset. So you won't necessarily find me talking about counting micros and macros in your eating, because at the end of the day, that for me doesn't really affect your mindset positively. I think that that's a really good result of working on mindset. So it's like, how do we understand the process? How do we understand nutrition at a high level so that we can understand there's more important things that get us to eat well, like sleeping, like understanding who we are, like not doing things that aren't aligned with what gives us energy, like being able to say no to things that we don't agree with, having good character, having good values, having good morals, so that we end up leading ourselves. And if we lead ourselves, we can lead others. And that's why we end off by saying, I'll look after me for you and you look after you for me. And if you get that, if you really think about that, it just gives you permission to like put yourself first. Make sure that you are putting yourself out there. This is who I am. Who else wants to see it? And then you realize that everyone is just sitting around waiting for someone to be themselves. You might not like everyone that is being themselves, but that's okay. Where in the world would you get along with billions of people that have no one that disagrees with you? And I think that's quite an interesting concept, because if you're scared about upsetting people, at the core of that, what does that mean? You think that you should upset no one. Therefore, everyone should get along. And if everyone gets along, everyone has the same opinion. If everyone has the same opinion, we're not doing much. We're just the lemmings going off the cliff because no lemming has turned around and said, guys, why are we all going off a cliff? They're all just like, we're going off a cliff. And so we all just run off a cliff. So we don't want to be lemmings. That's an analogy that's just come to me. So let's not be lemmings. Let's think for ourselves. Let's critically think. Let's be able to have good discussions. Let's be able to hold our emotional levels and have good discussions about things. Make sure that we're leveled out. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, on to the podcast topic for today. So I did ask the guys that watch on stream, and I said, what would be interesting? And someone said 3 peaks. And I said, but I haven't really trained for 3 peaks yet. I've been doing some. And then I thought, okay, let me tie it in because I like to go a bit deeper too. Like, I'll talk about the next challenge, which is doing 3 peaks fasted, and why I think challenges are important on our day to day. And then maybe we'll look into like how we make sure that challenge actually works for us and works with our goals. So first and foremost, 3 peaks, that's the next challenge in July. 3 peaks in 24 hours. So we're teaming up with one of my clients and going to do the 3 peaks in 24 hours. And that's going to be interesting. Because essentially it's like 3 to 4 to 5-ish hours of climbing up and down a mountain, getting in a car, driving, then doing the same thing, getting in the car, driving, and then doing the same thing again. So I think the biggest battle is around sleep deprivation. Now, obviously that's a low energy, high stamina type of event, and I want to try that fasted. Now, when I've said that to people, they really freaked out. They go, how can you do that fasted? And I'm like, hold on. It's not what it seems, because fasted just means I'm not going to be taking any food on while we do the challenge. It doesn't mean that like I'm fasting for 24 hours pre the 24 hours, so I'm actually 48 hours in. Fasting is just, I could have my last piece of food or energy just before I get out the car and we start the actual 24 hours. I haven't quite thought it through yet, but I quite like the challenge because why not? I don't particularly think that the 3 peaks is going to be something that's too intense to try and do. It might be quick up and down, but it's more the sleep deprivation, which is people struggle with. So if I'm doing fasting, that will essentially mitigate some of the downs of sleep deprivation because it's bringing that mental clarity. So I do think it's like, how do we find the balance? So that'll be a nice challenge on its own. I'm also doing it in Vivo Barefoots. So we're going to start training. I have been training in those, but it'll be interesting to see how that adapts because I'm a bit nervous. I'm not a big hiker, mountaineer, but I know that it's not exactly Everest or Mont Blanc or anything like that. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Now, to break that down, I did want to say, like, how do we break down something using high performance triangle and structures so that I know that by the time I get to 3 peaks, I'm not going to be nervous, because it was very similar to the marathon. It's like, if you're prepared, you'll be fine. So it's almost in my head going one long walk on the weekend and making sure we do two cardio hits of some sort in the week. Now, I gave myself a week to rest, and we're now on Tuesday, and I still haven't done any cardio, but I'm itching to do it. So this weekend, there'll be a long walk, and I'm going to try and fit in two either a Wednesday and a Friday, something, whether it's on the bike or in the pool, and keeping that a bit agile. And what I've done on top of that is ordered a weight vest. So I'm going to start training, and essentially I'm going to train hard, just like I did with the marathon. Train hard so that the day's easy, because I think that's where the beauty comes in. I'm going to really test that out. So we'll see how that goes. And yeah, I'll chat to you when we're done with the 3 peaks. But onto the bit that I think that will be interesting is like, why are challenges important to us? Mindset-wise, life-wise, purpose-wise. And you hear it a lot. They say, like, you've got to have something to look towards. So it's almost the analogy that I always use is like having a vision in a business is like having a rudder on a ship. It gives you direction in a storm. It allows you to steer when the environment is going to bring you left, right, and take you everywhere, but not where you want to go. But of course, if you don't have a vision, if you don't have a goal, if you don't have somewhere to go, that you don't have a rudder. So you're going to go with the current. Sometimes the current's going to take you to Hawaii, and you're going to be amazing. Look, I didn't have a plan in life, and look where I've ended up. But sometimes it's going to take you to Antarctica, and you're in your Speedos or your budgies. Yay. That's how I want to be. And you're not going to want to be there. And it's because you just went with the flow, went with wherever the storms take you. And yes, there's some enjoyment in that, but at the end of the day, it's not by choice. So if you want to go somewhere, you've got to have a vision. You've got to have a goal. Otherwise, it's just gambling. You're just gambling in life. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And I think sometimes that's just the way it works out. But I do think it is important to have a goal that's bigger than yourself, because if it's bigger than yourself, especially bigger than yourself, it makes you do things that you ordinarily wouldn't have done. And that's on the principle of, say, like accountability. I think we all need to be accountable to ourselves, but it's really hard for us to be accountable to ourselves sometimes because, what does it matter? If I'm alone, it doesn't affect anyone else, yada, yada, yada. But if I'm accountable to someone else, then any action I have affects someone else. And as long as I understand that, I'm going to keep going. So have yourself, I think for me, it always starts with like, have you got a 5 or 10 year vision? And I even go further than that. Like, have you got a vision of who you want to be when you're in 20 years time? So the example that I would use is like, there is going to come a time in your life when you get older that you're going to be at someone's funeral, talking at someone's funeral, or you're going to have to be the rock in someone's tragedy. So for me, that is doing an obituary. It's an obituary, not an obituary. When you talk at someone's funeral, what is that called again? I can't. Why is that word gone? But a eulogy. I got it. Right. So it's like one of my character things that I want to build up is having the emotional stability to be able to see the privilege of being someone's strength at their darkest time during loss. And that's being able to deliver a eulogy that does that person proud, that makes sure that person's legacy lives on. Because I think that's really important. Like the way we honor those that come before us and showing what they've left behind is such a good mark of their like silent CV. So that's one of my drivers is like, Don, why is integrity so important? Why do you work so hard on character? Why do you work so hard on the mindset and emotional stability and communication? Like, what does it actually matter? I'm like, that's when it'll matter for me. As well as fast forwarding further than that, it's like, what about on your deathbed? Like, I don't want to necessarily have regrets on my deathbed. I don't mean like I'm going to go jump off cliffs and do this and really live life as if I was going to die and have no. But it's that no regrets that every day I woke up, I tried my best to be a better person. And by being a better person, I was leaving behind a trail of better people. And that's what I mean by no regrets. Like, you don't want to end up on your deathbed going, the only thing that was important was family. The only thing that was important was like how you treated people, because they remember that. And actually, I didn't do a good job at working on that. Because I think you can like, I didn't go and, jump off a bridge with the rope tied around my feet to bungee jump, or jump out of an airplane with like all those extreme adventure things that people say, your bucket list. It was, you don't want to be there and going like, I regret being a horrible human being. I regret not having the strength and courage to say sorry to someone that harmed me, that was my family, that allowed me to live a happier life. Because those things take a lot of internal work. You don't need £1 million to do that. You just need you. You just need you to look in the mirror and go, what is it I'm facing today about me that's stopping me from having these things around me? So I know that when I'm on my deathbed, I can lay there and go like, I made good choices. I tried my best. And gosh darn it, like, people were important to me like that. And I think that's important. So if you have that vision of you on a deathbed, for me, it's like, that's what you'll work towards every day. That's what'll be important to you. That's that like core values thing. And then you align that back and you just start to work back. So like now it's going, what's your 5-year goal? Who do you want to be? Again, not what do you want to be, who do you want to be? So I want to be someone that's healthy, that's disciplined, that's got good communication, that's got good character, happy family around me. Like, those things are important. So when I bring myself back into the day-to-day, it's now thinking about those. Like, am I enacting any of those in any way? Which one am I doing well? Which am I not doing well? And you start to align yourself a little bit better. You start to give your ship direction, because there's now a rudder in place. And I think that's important. So when you're listening to this, like, have your 5-year goals, because then you start to get these 1-year goals. And these are like your performance goals. So like running the London Marathon had nothing to do with like ticking a box of running the London Marathon. Neither was it the one before. It had everything to do with that internal work. Like, I wanted to develop discipline within myself to know that I could finish something off that was bigger than what I could, so that I could train through it. So I knew that I had the character to be able to do it. Then the same with the second one. Like, it's like, oh, that was exciting, the first one, but the second one's going to be tough. And I was like, right, now I've got to lean into that, because who I want to be in 5 years' time has to have an ability to be resilient, has to have an ability to have the strength of character, has to have an ability to whatever this training program is going to give me and test me on. And it's not going to be the physical stuff. It's going to be the mental, character, internal stuff. And so I think that that's really important. And I'm listening to a book called Pyscho-Cybernetics, which is quite interesting. It's on self-image and everything. And they talk about, I'll just give you an analogy. They talk about success as like personality types, and each letter stands for something. So success, the first S is sense of direction, which is what essentially we're speaking about now. Like, why am I doing 3 peaks fasted? It's like trying to lean into something more. So like I've got that sense of direction of where I want to be in 5 years' time. It's a goal that really is aligned with who I am. Then the next one is understanding. Is like you have to have understanding of why you are of certain things, like why you are a certain way that you are. Not like trying to change it or challenge it, but just understand where you come from, what's made your self-image the way it is, so that you can build your courage. You can build, this personality type that is successful, the self-image that is successful. And they talk about courage, so you have to have courage to be able to go after things, and you have to be able to set your goals and know that they might be a bit scary because they're bigger than what you think you can achieve. But that's how we break our limited self-image, is that courage to go just a bit more than we think. And that's that principle of what I mentioned in the beginning. Interestingly enough, I've just made that connection, is that powerful beyond measure. It's like your measure that you know within what you're capable of is your self-image. So you have to have that powerful beyond measure as a fundamental thing of, I'm going to break that measure. I'm going to break that self-image to be something more. And that's that stretching yourself out the comfort zone. And then they talk about charity. They talk about esteem. They talk about self-confidence. They talk about self-acceptance. I think like such key things to be able to understand. And how do we get ourselves, how do we build self-confidence? How do we build self-acceptance? And we can talk about that at length. And self-confidence, by the way, as a quick point to mention, I think it's one of those things where you learn not to lie to yourself. So if you say, I want to do this, then understand that you've got to actually start to do it. Otherwise, you're just learning to lie to yourself. And when you lie to yourself, you have no confidence in yourself. And if you have no confidence in yourself, you don't have self-confidence. So if you want to build up self-confidence, just as a side note, do something small. Just do something small that you know you can achieve, that you've committed to, because then you're showing your self-image. You're showing yourself, your subconscious, that you do actually do things that you want to do. And you just maybe have got the scale wrong in the past. So remember that goal achiever model, the consistency model, is about scale. So I was talking to someone today about starting up their own habits, and they were like, yeah, I'm going to go for a run, I'm going to do that. And I was like, no, let's just start with, say, breathing. Just every morning you get up, just say, I'm going to do 10 nose breaths. Why? Because it doesn't matter where you are. It's going to take you 12 seconds, depending on your inhales and your exhales, and you're going to be able to achieve that. So you're going to learn not to lie to yourself. And just by that something small, you're going to build your self-confidence. And I think once you build your self-confidence, that's one part of that success personality type. That's that bigger self-image that we're going to try and achieve. So all the way back to where we were originally going is purpose. And I think it's like, if you can find what your purpose is, you can start to align everything you do with that purpose, that thing that gives you energy. And I think that requires deep work that you actually need to think about, and not just look at Instagram for someone going, this is how you find your purpose, just do this. It's like, it's like, understand how you are through different experiences, understand how you react, understand what triggers you, understand the things that make you feel powerful or make you feel weak, the things that give energy versus take energy. And it comes with this awareness that like, that actually made me feel really good. I'm going to keep trying to do that. That I didn't really like, I'm not going to do that. Like those things that really drive you inside, that you have to start to learn to listen to that, the gut feel, the intuition, how you are, who you are inside. And then I think the last thing I say in terms of like setting a bigger goal, setting a bigger, something you want to achieve, is even in Pyscho-Cybernetics, they explain that it's called your like self-success mechanism, or your success mechanism, where it's like life will just find a way. And I'd written that down before I remember that. It's like life will find a way to give you what you want. And that's where they say you got to be specific about how you want it, because if you don't say how you want it, life will give it to you in whichever way you want, in whichever way it can give you. Because at the end of the day, I think it doesn't really have the emotional thing that we do. It just goes, you wanted £1 million? Well, your house is just burnt out and insurance is going to pay you £1 million. You're like, Thank you, you sneaky little fox. But that's not really how I wanted it. But okay, I should have been specific. So life will always find a way. So like we can sometimes dip into spirituality, and it varies. And I think like I never want to talk about anything that's divisive, because when you get to the depth of things, I think that's when they unite. But in order to get to the depth, you sometimes have to break people's breadth. You have to break breadth with a D. You have to break their barriers that they've got around the detail that they know, and go, no, let's go deeper. Let's find the things that we do agree on. Let's find the things like, don't worry about your beliefs right now. Let's go deeper than that, because that's where we're going to find some answers. So some, like one of the books that I've read before, and I see it coming up in lots of different ways, is The Secret. But the principle of that is it talks about the universe delivering things like what your mind focuses on will bring into reality. And it's the same, like some people call the universe God, some people call God the universe or the creator, or any name that you see people giving to a higher power. For me, that's just, you believe in something greater than yourself. And God and the Bible are just a really good example of how they've really given it detail, whereas other people don't want that, need that, like that. So the universe becomes their own understanding. And I think that's essentially is about like, understand your essence, understand what you have to give, and try and chase that, try and develop that, because that's where life starts to get really exciting. And so all the way back to it is like, I think it's important to have challenges for yourself. They don't have to be big ones. They can be small. They can be like a couch to 5K. It can be trying to do one cold shower a month or a week, or it can be trying to get out of bed at 6:30 in the morning. Those are all challenges that you're working towards. And then once you've got that challenge, make a plan on how you're going to get to that challenge. So, if you want to wake up 6:30, what's your plan? Okay, I'm going to first focus on going to bed at a regular time. So I'm going to focus on getting to bed at 10 o'clock. But in order to get to bed at 10 o'clock, and I currently go to bed at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, I'm going to start going to bed at 11:30 and setting my alarm. And then I'm going to go at 11:15, 11:10, 11, 10:45, 10:30, 10. And then I've reached my 10. And when I've reached my 10, even if it's just getting ready for bed, jumping in the warm shower, brushing my teeth, starting the habit stacking. And then all of a sudden, you'll be getting to bed at 10 o'clock. And then you can go, okay, now I'm going to set my alarm for 7, and I'm going to set my alarm for 7, and then I'm going to set my alarm for 7:15, and then 6:30, and then suddenly you've reached your goal. That's if it's really hard. If you have this massive desire, you can just go, yep, I'm going to set my alarm for 6:30, and I'm going to wake up 6:30, and you'll do it. And some people, they have that, and it's down to desire. And I think my bit on self-forgiveness or self-compassion here is like, don't try and be like other people, because you don't understand what their desire is, and people don't understand yours. So if you have a desire that's 10 out of 10, you don't need to worry about scale. You don't need to worry about all this stuff. You just go after it. But if you have this desire, but it's like a 5 out of 10, it's like, I recognize I want to make a change, but I'm not really sure I want to, and I don't really follow through. It's like, okay, scale it right down, start it really small, build up really slowly, and you will achieve it. It just comes down to your reminders, your discipline, and lots of other aspects within that, say, goal achievement model that we've spoken about in previous episodes. So I hope you've gotten some value out of that. I'm not going to speak just for the sake of speaking for 30 minutes. We're on 24, and I appreciate your guys' time, patience, input, sharing to people that you think need to hear this. That would be amazing, because it's just about getting these ideas out there. They weren't mine to begin with. They just passed through me, and I passed them out into the world, and someone else can evolve them and take them and make them valuable. And in the meantime, I'll do that myself too. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for being here and being a big part of this journey. And who knows where this is going to go. So have a great week. Remember, we are who we are through others, Ubuntu, but I'll look after me for you, and you look after me. Nice one, Don. I'll look after me for you, and you look after you for me. You raise me up, I'll raise you up. Josh Groban has a hit song, and we're all happy. All right, bye.